Hi everyone, I'm the plant propagator and welcome to my channel. I'm not in Florida anymore, so I'm at my northern garden in the Midwest US. And it started out as a really nice warm day. It was 60 degrees, storm came through. You may hear some wind blowing in the background and there may be some interference, and we'll just try to get through this. I actually started recording this earlier and a thunderstorm came through. I had to stop and start over again. So that's where I am. Right now it is 52 degrees, which is about 12 Fahrenheit, which is about 12 degrees Celsius. What I wanted to do today was give you a little bit of a tour of my other garden here in the Midwest US. Gardening has always been something that I've done. In Florida, I have my orchids and my tropical plants. Here, I have not too many tropical plants, but I got a lot of just typical Midwest US plants, and it is early April, so things are just starting to come up. The buds are starting to break. I've got some early flowers, and what I wanted to do was give you kind of a give you a tour of some of the things that are going on in my garden. Before I do that, I did mention that I don't have, my tropical plants are in Florida, with the exception of this one right here. So this is, I don't know if you can tell, but this is a palm tree. And this is a needle palm, and it happens to be one of those palm trees that is cold tolerant. It's been in this location probably for around 15 years. In the summertime, sometimes I'll put a banana right next to it, so this is my tropical corner. And it's protected because of my house that is surrounding this space. So even though it does get cold here in the in the winter time, I used to actually put burlap around this plant, leaves on top and blanket and everything like that. I got lazy and I don't do that anymore. But as you can see, it's coming out pretty good. Sometimes what happens on this palm tree is the top is completely killed and the new growth comes out of it. But even though it was really cold this winter up here, this plant's still doing pretty well. So all the leaves are still green. It's not going to get that big, and if it does, the winter will come and then it'll knock it down. So I just wanted to share this with you. I should mention to you that this is not my idea. This was a suggestion that was given to me by David Franco, who was a faculty member at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And so he gave me this. I think he may even have given me the plant when it was really small. And it's done well, but it's just not going to get big. All right, so what I want to do at this point is get behind the camera and show you some of the things that are in my garden, show you some of the plants that are coming up. I'm also going to take you, I think, in the back part of my yard. So I've got 2 acres behind you that is mostly wooded, and we're going to take a look back there as well. Not too much, but just a little bit of a look. Okay, so let me get behind the camera and I'll show you parts of my garden here and how things are just starting out now. Okay, and we are back. A lot of years in my garden, I've got a lot of crocuses blooming, but not too many this year. And the reason for that is that I've got a lot of wildlife. We'll take a look again at the wooded acres behind my house. And what happens, I guess, is the animals that are back there, they come up here and they love eating my crocuses. The only reason that these crocuses are still there is, if you can tell, this is at the base of a wild rose, and there's lots of thorns on this rose. I don't know if you can tell. Oh, you can tell right there. So, and I'm so sorry about that wind, but it's windy and the temperature's dropping too. So yikes. Anyway, this is this is one of my roses. This really is just starting to bud out. It's not doing anything, but the reason that these crocuses are safe is because it's at the base of this thorny plant. Most of my other crocuses are completely eaten up, but this is a nice rose just starting to bud out. Let me see if I can find some of the buds on these plants. You can't see it really well here, but it's just starting to leaf out a little bit, and not much going on there. Okay, as we move down, I've got a stone walkway and then a stone patio, and I can show you as I walk down here. I've got some other roses here on the right. I do have to show you. This is sage. I love growing sage, and it survives here in wintertime. It hasn't really grown out yet, but it will, and it'll be really pretty full, and I'll get a lot out of that. I got a lot of sage planted because they do so well. The animals don't seem to eat it, and it grows so well. But what I have here along the side of my walk is, well, you just imagine, all right, first of all, there used to be crocuses all to the left and the right side of my walk. But aside from the rabbits eating the top, the chipmunks, when the plants are, when the leaves are senescing, when they're turning brown and falling off, the chipmunks know to follow those down to the bulbs, and they really like those. And they actually plant the bulbs in other places too. But what right now is bordering here, what I have, the plants that are coming up, I've got a lot of daylilies. I had a colleague, a friend who used to be at Mississippi, and he's a daylily breeder, and he sent me a lot of daylilies. And then I even tried some of my own daylily crosses, and I have some of the crosses are mixed in here with some of these daylilies, but then some of the other crosses that were unsuccessful, I'll show you those where those went, and those are kind of pushed into the other part of my yard. But these daylilies they'll make a lot of flowers. It'll be really pretty. Everything here will fill in. Oh, I got to show you this. This was a gift. I normally don't. I take more of a positive attitude with my plants, and I speak nicely to them, kind of like Marcy does. And it was a gift, so I've got to hold on to it. Anyway, most of the plants that are here in the back part of my garden, again, and this is protected, there's a lot of daylilies back in here. The plants that are go up against the side of the house are butterfly bushes. So these things, I trimmed them back today, and these things will get pretty big and grow up all the way to the roof. This is the back of my garage. So they'll grow all the way up to the top, and the butterflies back here in the summertime, and the hummingbirds back here are really very nice. I've got other plants here. I've got irises growing there to the left and the right side of this walkway, and there's a clematis growing up on my little trellis right there. A bird house on top, always sparrows, which is not my favorite bird, but they just always grow. They always go in there and they find things. But again, lots of irises, and these guys spread like crazy. These plants are all so easy to propagate. The daylilies and the irises, you just dig them up and move them this time of year, in the fall, really anytime. But all these plants that are coming up, in my garden, they're mostly the daylilies and some irises too. But all these clumps of plants that are coming up, they're gonna get really full. So and there's a lot of color back here in the summertime. Okay, so I do want to show you right here my little caged area. Again, this is because of the animals. So normally I plant peas back in here, and the bunnies and the deer just really go to town on these things. So I had to cage them, and they can't get through the cage. I've got really small, not great hyacinths coming up in this area, and it's going to be a little while before those kind of grow up. Wow, there is some wind going on here. I know you got to hear that. Anyway, so these are some of the some of the plants that are growing in my garden. And this is when you just kind of back up and take a look at my patio in area. This is what I see, the little descent area in the middle. I've got a chimenea that I go in there because I've got 2 acres of woods behind my house. There's always wood to burn that goes in that spot where the chimenea is. It's kind of bare right now, but it's okay. It's mostly cleaned up, but there's always work to do back here. So there's just stuff, and I actually have to power wash my patio. That's not one of my favorite tasks, but you got to do it because there's it stays a little, as you can tell, maybe it stays a little moist back here sometimes, and because of the woods and because of the shading, so I get some algae growing, so I got to power wash every year. Okay, so moving around, I'm going to show you some things in the back of my house. So I mentioned to you my daylilies that made flowers that I didn't really care for that much, and that's what all those are right there. Those are my daylilies that didn't make it. There are a lot of hosta because of the woods and the shade around my house. There's a lot of hosta all over the place. Oh, there's a spring bird, right there. Got something. Now I'm trying to get something. Anyway, I've got a lot of hosta because there's so much shading from the trees. And again, I have a lot, and that's another plant that is ridiculously easy to propagate. You just take a shovel to it and cut off a piece or cut it in half. This time of year is perfect. They're just starting to come up now, so it's a real good time of the year to propagate those plants. And let me show you, this is the woods behind my house. And we're going to go into those just a little bit. Again, it's early April, very early spring here, and the woods they're my favorite place to go. I've got some of my early, I can see them here. My early daffodils are starting to flower right here. Most of my daffodils aren't really aren't where there's Buddha, but there's daffodils behind it. The daffodils aren't really growing that much yet. And again, this is a rhododendron right there. There's an azalea that's right there. Back to the first rhododendron, a second rhododendron. And if you can tell, these are also caged. And the deer find these things. So anything that grows through these cages, most anything, I should say that, but then this thing, there's stuff on the bottom that's grown through it. The deer, especially in the, in the wintertime, it's the only green thing that's in the woods. So they eat. And so normally they'll eat this plant. And so that's why I have some of the evergreens in my wooded area caged. Again, what we're going to do is take a real quick look at some of the property behind the house. And it's 2 acres, but I try to plant it a little bit with certain types of plants. So there is I can't see it. There is a daffodil. There it is. There's a daffodil right there coming up. And I've got a lot of daffodils in my woods. I've tried crocuses down here, and sometimes the animals find them. Sometimes they don't, but I'm walking. You may not be able to tell. I'm walking a little bit downhill. More daffodils here. And I'm not going to walk all the way because it is a ravine that's behind my house, and you may be able to see the creek that runs through my property back here. So it is, it's a really nice place that I like to go to, and I like to spend time down here. It's very peaceful. It's actually, you can hear the wind through the trees, but the wind isn't blowing me as much. So it's nice to get down here. There's this is a bridge that I built that initially spanned across the creek that's right there below it. But what happened is that with a lot of rain, the creek floods and the soil gets eroded, and it got kind of washed away. It was a lot bigger than that, and it spread across it, but it's just, I put a lot of time into it, so it's really too bad that that happened. But what you can see here, if you take a look, is I've got some, and I've tried cultivating this a little bit. I've got daffodils, that there's steps that go down to the bottom of the hill that's right there. And then once you reach to the bottom of the hill, then I have a path that is lined with those logs. And you can see, well, it's hard to see, but you can see daffodils that I planted. And I got a lot of daffodils planted along the side of these logs. And as you go out here, this is the trail that I have that runs through my property. And again, I like going down there. It's just real pleasant. There's a bench right there that is on the property, but it just kind of keeps on going. It's only 2 acres, but the path just keeps on going around the bend there. There's a lot of different types of trees. There's sycamore, birch, oaks, a lot of maple, and I just really enjoy this the quiet that I get on this back part of the property. And again, I've tried to grow plants on here, but the animals, it's mostly the deer and the bunnies and the chipmunks. There's turkeys back here, wild turkeys back here too, but some of the animals, they like to eat plants. So the ones that survive are the ones that the deer don't. So the deer do not like daffodils. So because they don't like the daffodils, they do well. And so that's fine, and that's why that's why they do well, and that's why they're down here. All right, so I just wanted to give you a quick tour. I may show you how to do propagation of some of the plants that are up by my house, and that may be coming soon. So I'll be here for a couple of weeks and getting some things done, seeing family, things like that. And that's all I have for you today. If you liked what you saw and you want to keep on seeing my videos, it would help me out if you could click on like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. All right, from a windy and cooling down quickly Midwest US location, I'm the plant propagator. Thanks for watching, and happy propagating.